Welcome to the Squeeze podcast. I'm Ashlea, the Orange Lady, and this is my sister,
Bethany.
That's her. This is part 2 of our series on hashtags and heartbreaks, like navigating your feelings, big feelings, in also navigating your job. So we've talked about, shared some stories about how terribly we have handled certain things with that. But today we want to talk a little bit more about like support systems and self-care, things that we, have used or worked for us in these situations. So we got the heavy stuff out of the way. Good. So what kind of support did you seek outside of work?
At the time, I had my best friend, and really, for me, it's fitness. So that, and who is no longer with us on part 2, Opal.
Yeah. That's the dog. I have to go back to part 1 if you would like to see Opal on YouTube. So yeah, she's there.
But yeah, that was really it for me at that time, just because while I was sharing it with those at work, because things were coming through during that time of the day, at home, I would really just go shut down, and it was really an embarrassing situation, and I didn't want people in my actual life to know. It sounds so wild to say that, you're gonna share it at work.
Right.
But also we had a lot of mutual friends, and while I was brokenhearted, there was still a respect of not everyone needs to know what happened here. So
yeah, well, that's very big of you.
Thank you.
So I definitely went to therapy. My kind of relationship with therapy throughout my life has been whenever I go through these mega life events, it's ooh, time for therapy again. And so it's not like I'm always in therapy, but it's on and off as needed. Sometimes it's once a month. Sometimes it's I need to see you every week, please. And so this was definitely one of those times, because I also couldn't sleep. So my exhaustion was just getting to me. I did, getting dressed was a big part of that, feeling good about how I showed up. And I can't say enough about therapy though. And it helped that I already had a trusted counselor before this, right? Now, I said that I go to therapy when I have mega events in my life, but I had already established that relationship before some of those mega events. One of the first things I do when I move to a new place is search out a new therapist, because you don't know when that thing is going to happen, and it's really hard to start a new relationship with a therapist when you are in the middle of trauma and feel judged. But if it's somebody that has also just seen you through your normal ups and downs, and you have that trust established, and you're not worried about them judging you. One time, oh my gosh, one time I went to see this psychologist that she was probably my same age and had a big wedding ring on her hand, and just looked perfectly put together, just everything just seemed perfect. And I couldn't go back and see her because it made me feel even worse about myself. Now, maybe if I'd already had an established relationship, it would have been fine, but it couldn't, because it was just it looks like you're doing fine and all the things, and I'm a wreck. So this doesn't help me feel better. But yeah, so that's definitely my thing. What kinds of self-care and support system? I mean, you talked about fitness. Was there anything you changed up about fitness?
Yeah, I mean, it was finding that balance. I'm really hard on myself with my fitness and my health. So during those times I can be really hateful to myself. So it was finding that balance of like, well, what's healthy for me to be doing when I really don't have the energy to be doing anything, because I also wasn't eating. That's part of this specific breakup for me. I was too anxious to eat. I was skipping meals, not on purpose. I just couldn't eat.
I was too, and I forgot that completely. Yeah. It was like one glass of wine and whoo, because I had not eaten much.
Yep. So it was finding that balance, and it started off with just like walking Opal. Sometimes, like, it might make me sound like a bad dog mom, but sometimes I needed a walk just for myself because she's not always behaved. Yeah. And it takes away from like my serenity that I'm trying to find because I'm focused on her and I can't look at the sky or I can't look at what's surrounding me. And I need that to heal. So yeah, that was finding that balance for me. And then soon after, when I was able to get my appetite back and I was eating again, and then I started running, and then I found a gym that I was comfortable in, which actually ended up being the gym that I had been with for a really long time, and getting comfortable back in that. But it was like I had to take it easy on myself to even get back in the gym because I was too like, I mean, I had lost so much weight.
That's a really good point. Yeah, my eating was just like, trying. Like it wrecks your body like when you are so emotionally upset. Our bodies react. Let's stop pretending they don't.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
What do you think your lessons learned? And, hopefully neither of our hearts are ever broken again, on my word. But how will you handle it in the future if that happens? Or it doesn't even have to be a breakup, right? But like mega emotions, how are you going to handle it at work?
Yeah, I mean, let's just start off by saying hopefully it won't ever be this dramatic again. Who knows? But now I'm fully remote, so I don't even have to go to an office. But I had a boss that was telling me, and even if you don't have a boss that's telling you like, hey, you can work from home, just ask so that you can save yourself. I can save myself from oversharing if I get caught up in my emotions.
The flip side of that, or if you're the person that like can't quite function and you actually need to show up to the office, letting them know that like, hey, I'm going to come into the office more than usual, but this is what I need. Like,
and there was a time for that in this last breakup for both. Like once I got better, but yeah, most definitely.
I think that I have a better handle on being able to like take time off, kind of let like the bigness of it happen. That's what I think I would do instead of just trying to power through. That just is not a good idea. And I get like we don't always have vacation time and we don't always have that luxury, but that's what I would definitely just take time off, not try to balance both. It's too much.
I also think with mine, like the lesson I learned, such a big lesson in like I had such a setback from this breakup that I won't do that again. I will not. Like I might be emotional. I might have to cry. I might, like have to go home. But what I won't do is open my mouth about what I'm going through again. I will not do that. Like, I'll keep it simply at like, I'm going through a breakup or something like that if needed. But no details. No details.
I mean, and like if you have a boss that or work with people that don't have EQ, they don't have that emotional intelligence to be able to like be empathetic and think about, instead of just like judging or like, oh, well, shit, our work product is not going to be as good now. It's like, okay, like, I have a friend that was going through a divorce, and like at the beginning, the people above us were like so supportive. Let me know anything you need. Like, but then fast forward, like, guess what? All of those emotions in that process aren't just wrapped up in a month or two. especially when you're going through like things that include like legalities, right? And moving. Like there are so many logistical pieces to a breakup that after like 2 months, they were like, okay, like get it together. And it's like, but you said like, wow, interesting that I guess I didn't know there was a timeline on how long I had to get it together. And I just think, wow, I guess you've never been through that. Like, I was like, wow, it is amazing that they can look at you and be like, you should be performing. And it's like, okay, you just told me more about you. And again, your charm, privileged life, you haven't had to deal with this. Because if you had, you would maybe, I would like to think, approach it a little differently. So my biggest takeaways from dealing with big emotions and keeping a job are that, yes, I would still definitely not tell people above me. I would, talk to a trusted colleague or two, and I would really lean on my outside work community. I would take time off. And it might look something like take a week off and then take a day off as needed after that. But giving myself like that flexibility to be human and knowing that some days are going to be fine and you're like, oh, I can do this. And actually I need to do this. This is great. And then there's days where it feels like none of this matters. My whole world is in shambles. So I'm not going to do it. Because guess what? It really doesn't matter. No matter what your team or your boss say, nothing at work is so important that if it doesn't get done, like things are going to explode, implode, whatever.
You have to take care of yourself before any of that can be accomplished, really.
Yeah. I also encourage folks, like my DMs are always open if you are navigating something like that. I don't want somebody to feel embarrassed or ashamed because of how they're being looked at or treated at work. Or again, if you don't have that trusted work community, there are lots of people in the Squeeze community that have navigated this. We've also talked about loss and trauma. Right? Like all of these things are similar in how we have to like navigate them as humans. So this is definitely a space that you can ask questions, you can get support, people will rally and help you. So I guess that's today's like, now you have the like juice, the heart juice. You can put it to use. Okay.
Cheers. Cheers. Love you.
I love you.